the question is clarity on hardened vents at the boilers. And when you look at it, and this is an area where when I said we don't understand the whys, and I use it as an example, we need to understand better what happened there and why it happened to actually know what we want to do. All of our Mark 1s have hardened vents, okay? And I think that half of our Mark 2s, I think there's 3 or 5 that don't have hardened vents. So the task force report says you ought to look at what you're going to do. So the first thing our guys are looking at is, will my vent work the way I wanted it to work? And that was done as part of the first walk down that IMPO had requested we do and that NRC had looked at. And when you're thinking about the vent, one of the things you're thinking about, will the valves work the right way? And if they don't work because I have a power problem, will they work pneumatically, or do I have to do them by individual, by a person actually opening it? And if I had to, could that person do it? Could they get to it? Could they actually open it? So that's what the companies have been looking at from the standpoint of those Mark 1s that have them, those Mark 2s that have them. I think that IMPO is going to come out with an incident event report that's going to actually look at station blackout and stuff like that. It won't probably affect the vents at this point. But I think that what the companies are going to do in response to the task force report, at least the Mark 2s that don't have them, is take a look at their original justification. Because when NRC wanted them in the first place, they said you should do them on Mark 1s. They said, look at your Mark 2s, and the reason they didn't rush on Mark 2s is that the containment is bigger. So they thought they could handle things better with a larger containment because the Mark 1 containment's smaller. I think the companies will have to look back at their justification and then see what makes sense to them. Those would be, because you're going into containment with penetrations, those would be a pretty significant modification you'd have to do in an outage, because you wouldn't breach containment unless you were in an outage. So I think that in general, our sites we think are in pretty good shape. I think there's 31 or 32 sites that are boilers like that, and the majority of them have hardened vents. We still, and again, I keep coming back, until we honestly know why they had the hydrogen get into the reactor buildings at Fukushima, we're not quite sure if there's something that we should do differently. See, our hardened vents go right outside the reactor building. We understand that the Fukushima ones went through their off-gas system. And if they waited too long, they may have just blown out stuff because it wasn't part of their hardened vent. And we just don't know that yet. We know what happened. We're just still not sure why, and IMPO's trying to get it.
The Norwegian shooter apparently recommended that his fellow co-religionists take down a nuclear plant in the UK. And my question is the security abroad anywhere near as tight as what you describe here?
If I gave a completely factual answer, I would say I don't know, because I haven't gone to the plants abroad to see it. I do know what we do, and I don't think anybody is doing anything near as much as what we do at our sites. Now, when we talk with FBI and others, do they tell us nuclear plants are always on a terrorist list? Yes. Do they tell us we should, I say this the right way, do they tell us they think that we're good targets? No. That you're a hardened target, you're intimidating as hell, it's not the place they want to go. But are you on the list? Sure. The White House is always on the list, the Congress is always on the list, there's a bunch of things that would always be on the list. Len, to your question, I think that given the way Fukushima managed to play in the mass media for so long, I would hope that other countries are looking at the security at their plants, because you don't have to cause an accident to make the news. You just got to do something that creates an event. I don't think any nuclear plant is easy to attack. I mean, you know, they're pretty robust structures, and I think everyone now has security offices, but we certainly do. I mean, they're fortresses right now.
This will be the last question.
Okay. Okay, Danielle's question is, what is the status of the decontamination at Fukushima? All right. the Japanese just announced that they thought that it would take about a decade before they got the site to a place where they could actually remove the cores from the vessels. So they're talking a decade. Where they are right now is they literally have millions of gallons of contaminated both with radiation and also with oil and other things, water that they're trying to clean up and then use to cool the core and to cool the pools. They're about 6 months from their own estimate from having actually what we would call cold shutdown, where they're actually circulating water through the core and they're actually, quote, in cold shutdown. Right now they're just keeping water going in, but they can't circulate it because they don't have these systems operational. So they are probably 6 months or more from where they'll actually have the site, quote, stabilized. And then they're a decade, Danielle and everybody, from when they think that they would have the site in a place where they could try and remove the fuel that they have melted in the cores. That's not dissimilar to TMI. It took about a decade. Now, you're better in some respects in that you have the TMI experience and even the Chernobyl experience, which is helping Japan plan on what they can do. You have robots and other things that were developed as a result of TMI that are helpful, but you also have 4 reactors there that you're dealing with, not 1. So it's going to be a long, pretty arduous process that they're going through, and they continue to have aftershocks. They just had a typhoon with 157-mile-an-hour winds come by the site. So it's not the most hospitable environment for the Japanese workers that are trying to do really good stuff there, and we got to keep in mind the hard work that they're doing at the site. Let's take, and this will be the last question.
Thank you. Thank you. Just had a question closer at home. In New York, the governor and the attorney general have expressed concerns related to evacuation plans and water use, specifically to Indian Point. I was just wondering, could you explain how the state of New York could impact the relicensing efforts of Indian Point through either evacuation zones or water use? Thanks.
I'm not sure legally I know exactly the right answer, and I think that in Vermont, ultimately the case between Entergy and the state will probably define this better. What's clear to me, however, is that from a nuclear safety standpoint, the federal government has preemption. A state can't say that I won't let you operate because you're unsafe if the NRC says you're safe. The feds do have preemption on safety. I think where the questions exist are in the areas you mentioned. I think in environmental areas, what happens if you don't get your permit from the state? Can you go to EPA and get them to issue it because it originates with them? I don't know. And the other area would be certainly in Vermont it's being discussed, which is the economic approvals of stuff. I think on emergency planning, I actually don't think a state can stop you on just emergency planning, because I think that as a result of cases on Seabrook years ago, it was determined that the feds can take action and other things. But I think Vermont may help clear some of this up. Okay, thank you all. If you have questions, go to our website or call Richard or Leslie or Mary, or call me if you want. And if you have suggestions on stuff that you think NEI should be doing that would help you more, also let us know that, because we'll try and do that to get you better information or cover topics we haven't been covering. And again, thanks an awful lot for coming, and thanks for staying, and have a good day and a good week.